Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. This is the regular facilities update webinar. We are just letting folks into the webinar, and we will get started shortly. Thank you for joining us today. All right, everyone, we are going to get started. Thank you again for joining. I'm Dr. David Glassner, Superintendent of the Shaker Heights City School District. It is great to have you with us this afternoon. Hope everybody is enjoying the nice weather. Like we've done in the past, we are going to share some updates related to the implementation of our long-term facilities plan. And then at the end of those updates, we will open up the chat room so that folks can ask questions or share other thoughts. So with that, I'm going to get started. Some of the information that's in here is review. Some of this information is a little bit newer. We thought it'd be helpful to do a little bit of both. And if you have seen one of my presentations in the past couple of months, you have probably seen this slide. As always, the information that we are sharing is tentative and can be subject to change. If information on the ground changes, then our plans will change as well. So I want to make that clear. You will see this timeline may look familiar to folks who have joined previous webinars. As I think everyone is aware, we are planning to close Woodbury at the end of this academic year so that we can commence work to prepare for renovations of the Woodbury building. That means that next year, fifth graders will be staying in their elementary buildings, and sixth graders will be moving to the middle school when that middle school site will be used as swing space until the Woodbury building is complete. In order to help facilitate that moving process, we have developed a decision timeline, and that really helps us make sure we are on pace or on target to be prepared to open up our school buildings and new classrooms by the beginning of next school year. I'm happy to say, as I've said before, that we remain on schedule with this decision timeline. You'll see the information, for example, about modular classrooms and different scheduling decisions, staffing decisions. We continue to be on target to be prepared for the beginning of next school year. We are also in the process of hiring an architect and a construction firm. We expect to have an architect selected by the end of the month of April. We expect to have a construction manager at risk, also known as a CMR, selected by the end of May, if not sooner. And just a note about the construction manager at risk, what that means is that we will be hiring a construction firm. That construction firm will provide us with what they call a guaranteed maximum price, a GMP. They agree that they will complete the project within that guaranteed maximum price. And if they do not, then they are assuming the risk of going over budget. So that's why it's called a construction manager at risk, or a CMR. That is essentially the standard model for school construction renovation in Ohio. So this is a model that is used by many other school districts, and that Shaker Heights used for the Fernway renovation as well. We are preparing classroom learning spaces for next year. Some highlights: we do need modular classrooms, formerly known maybe once as trailers. We do need modular classrooms at Shaker Heights Middle School to accommodate the influx of sixth grade students. If you pass by the middle school, you will see little markers installed in the area where we expect the modular classrooms to be installed. Those modular classrooms, we're still finalizing which students they will be used for, but I can tell you that they will be installed. One unit of them will be installed right outside of the first wing in the middle school, for those of you familiar with the middle school layout. We did have a group of folks who were able to go visit modular classrooms that are installed at another nearby school recently within the past few weeks. Came back with very positive experience. The modular classrooms are very nice. We have heard and we continue to hear that teachers and students who use modular classrooms typically prefer those to the unrenovated spaces that they're leaving behind. So Fernway, we will be accommodating fifth grade students at Fernway next year. For the time being, we expect that Fernway will utilize existing learning spaces. We do not expect to need modular classrooms at Fernway. We do anticipate at this time, based on preliminary construction schedules, that we will add an addition to Fernway for a more permanent solution to having additional students there. And we expect that that will likely take place towards the beginning of the construction and renovation process. We are also, of course, in the process of planning for the many logistical details related to the packing, moving, and unpacking of learning spaces. Obviously, that affects Woodbury faculty and staff the most, but there are also kind of some secondary moves that are happening in other school buildings, in some of our elementary buildings, in our middle school. So it's all part of the moving process. We have a number of different groups and committees that are working to help provide input and help develop planning details. I know you've heard me say this before, but we have a K-5 working group and a 6-8 working group that are focused obviously on those specific grade bands. We do have a committee that's formed to help also facilitate the packing, moving, and unpacking process. And really our goal is to ensure that we are collaborating with staff and faculty across all different levels of the school district, and that we have opportunities to get input and feedback as this process unfolds. We have, I know a question that has come up in the past is the kind of support and time that especially faculty has to plan for next school year. For example, teachers who maybe teach fifth grade now, but will be in elementary buildings next year, or will be teaching either new grade levels or subject areas. We have developed a professional learning plan that includes additional time this year, release time for faculty to collaboratively plan and get support from our instructional coaches and IB coordinators. Some of those opportunities have already started taking place, gotten very positive feedback from teachers about these opportunities. So that's been great to see that rolling out. I've mentioned in the past, and I want to reiterate that in order to help prepare and provide time for packing, moving, and unpacking, we have proposed some calendar changes to the 23-24 school year and the 24-25 school year. This webinar is very timely because our Board of Education will be voting on those calendar changes this evening at the Board of Education meeting. The calendar changes are aimed at providing some additional time for teachers to have, and for teachers and other staff to have time to pack and unpack, while also understanding that while also prioritizing student instructional time and family needs. So just to go over what those changes are. So the proposed changes include for this school year, that the school year would end one day earlier for students in grades K through 8. So from June 6th to June 5th, the last day for high school students would remain June 6th. This gives teachers and staff an additional day of packing time. And I should add, there are additional days, optional days, and times built in for folks who would like to take advantage of that. We are providing then June 6th and June 7th opportunities for additional packing time. Next school year is a little bit more complicated. I guess I will say, generally speaking, there are a couple of changes. So the DEI, the district scheduled DEI Professional Learning Day would take place on August 14th instead of August 15th. So we would be bringing staff in, all staff and faculty would report on August 15th. January 6th is currently scheduled as a professional learning day, so that would change to a regular student instructional day so that we can call staff in a day earlier to August 15th. And in order to accommodate these changes, the 24-25 school year would end one day earlier to maintain the same number of student days and staff days, 173 student days and 185 staff days. So these are the changes that the board will be voting on this evening. As soon as these changes are finalized, if the board votes to approve them, then we will get communication out widely and broadly so that everyone can plan accordingly. We have been working to finance the upcoming school renovations. This stage of the process is ensuring that the bonds that the community supported the passage of, those bonds have now been sold on April 4th. The district successfully sold all of its bonds. What that allows us to do then is get the funds necessary to start the renovation and construction project. So as of middle of next week, we will have just over $102 million transferred into our accounts so that we can begin funding the renovation and construction process. The Ohio Facility Construction Commission, the OFCC, that's the state agency that helps provide support for the construction renovation process, is also providing a 37% match, and that remains the case. We've talked previously about the many different ways that we are communicating with our community and engaging with our many different stakeholders. I'm not going to go through this list line by line, but we continue to prioritize opportunities for engagement, feedback, and input. Obviously, as this process evolves and as we move into different stages of the process, there will be different types of opportunities for engagement. For example, one of the questions I get is related to the design of the school buildings, whether that's Woodbury or other school buildings. There will be opportunities for folks to get to weigh in and provide input on school building design. That comes a little bit later in the process. We first have to hire an architect and then go through some other planning processes, but that will be something that we do have in place. If folks are familiar with the Fernway process, for example, our teachers and staff provided quite a bit of input on the Fernway design, and we had community members who also had the opportunity to provide input as well, and there are opportunities for students during that process. If you aren't already getting our facilities updates, I strongly encourage you to sign up for those regular facilities updates. They come out, it's not quite weekly. Sometimes there are just weeks where we don't have new information to share, but pretty regularly they come out. If you haven't seen our website, our long-term facilities planning website, you can access that right from our homepage, shaker.org. You'll see a link to long-term facilities planning that provides you with easy to access information, including the sign up for those regular emails. So that concludes the slides and the information that I wanted to share with you today. We're now going to open up our chat function so that folks can ask questions or share additional feedback. I'd also like to welcome Kristen Cash, who's one of our communications specialists, who is going to help review, moderate, and facilitate our conversation from here. And I will stop sharing my screen. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. Appreciate you being here. While we're waiting for questions to come through, I want to just add, and I should have mentioned this earlier, this is being recorded. And Kristen, correct me if I'm wrong, we do post this to our long-term facilities page afterwards for folks who couldn't join. So
that is accurate. While we are waiting for some questions to come in, feel free to put those in the chat. Can you tell us a little bit about the moving committee and what they're working on and who is part of that?
Uh, Great question. So we have a number of folks who are helping with the moving committee. I do want to give credit to a few different folks. John Rizzo, our Executive Director of Technology and Media Services, has really helped to lead the moving process. There are lots and lots of different details to work out. Our facilities and maintenance department is also taking a lead. Obviously, there are a lot of things that need to be moved or planned for, and so they're a key part of this process. Our learning and teaching team, which includes everybody from district administrators to principals and others, are also weighing in on this process. And we have other employee groups that includes teachers, custodians, security monitors, administrative assistants that are all part of this moving committee because we know that the move is affecting different groups of employees differently. Teachers obviously are focused primarily on their learning spaces and moving those learning spaces. We also have administrative assistants who may be moving office spaces. We have custodians who have to both prepare a building to be closed and also prepare buildings to accommodate new staff and faculty. So it includes a wide range of folks who are participating. We do expect to get information out about the move or about the packing process, I should say, in the very near future. We've already installed some bins and other containers as teachers and staff are kind of going through items just on a regular basis and they realize there are things they want to dispose of. We want to make sure that that's easy to do because the purging process, the cleaning process is a key part of the packing process. So we've already started that and we expect to have more information to share with folks about packing procedures and moving procedures very soon. So.
Great, thanks. We have a question asking if we can kind of clarify a little bit about what was new today and maybe what was already has been shared in the past, just so we can help the viewers sift through a little bit of the information that we shared today.
Great question. The vast majority of what we shared today was old or has information that we have shared in the past. I would say the things that are new or newer, the bond issuance update is new information that we did not share at a previous webinar. So the fact that those bonds have sold, it's good news. That is not something we've shared before. The calendar updates is newer. We've shared that recently. It's becoming a little more real now that the board is voting on it this evening, and we did want to remind everybody of the proposed changes. So I would say that that is the information that is newer. If there are, while we're waiting for potentially other questions, I did have a couple of other things just to mention. At the board meeting this evening, we will be talking with our Ludlow architects and construction firm. So that's GPD is the architecture firm for Ludlow, and Gilbane is the construction manager at risk, the CMR for Ludlow. They're going to be sharing information with the board about related to the design of the Ludlow School building. We'll be sharing information primarily related to the external design, the site plan of Ludlow, and some updates related to the internal design of Ludlow, as well as some budgetary information. So I encourage folks to tune in if they can. The board meeting starts at 5. And while the Ludlow project is on a much smaller scale than the other renovations and construction that we'll be taking on over the coming years, the process is similar. So for folks wanting to learn about kind of how this process works, I think you'll learn a lot by getting to hear from the GPD and Gilbane representatives. Secondly, one other thing to add, and I'll probably mention this again before we close off, we do have an opportunity to celebrate the legacy of Woodbury as well as kind of what the future holds. On May 17th, Friday, May 17th, starting at 5 o'clock, we will be celebrating the Woodbury School building and legacy. Definitely encourage folks to come. I know we've been reaching out to alumni and lots of other folks, and our Shaker Schools Foundation is helping to lead that effort along with other folks in our community. So just putting that on folks' radar.
That is great to point out. And speaking of celebrations, you had mentioned the calendar that is being voted on tonight. Can you talk a little bit about how that might impact and affect end of year celebrations and when families might get that information?
Absolutely. We have been working closely, I should say principals have been working closely with their school buildings and other stakeholder groups like the PTO at different buildings to make sure that any changes in the calendar, either that they don't affect some of the end of year celebrations, or that we are making changes as needed. It's really school building specific. So, and I don't have all the different dates and times in front of me. But please know that we are taking the calendar changes into account as we plan for school celebrations. And if that information related to school celebrations will be shared shortly if it hasn't already. Kristen, you may have other updates that you want to share related to school celebrations, or if there's anything specific.
Yeah, so we are just, I think, at this point of awaiting the approval from the Board of Education, and then I believe the schools have their dates that will be updated once all of that is approved, and then we can get all of that adjusted and updated onto the district calendar, and we'll send notice out, I would think, as early as tomorrow
Yeah.
to all families.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. As of right now, that's it for the chat.
Okay. Our next webinar, I believe, is scheduled 2 weeks from now.
It is the date. It is
And
scheduled for
again,
Wednesday, May 1st.
Wednesday, May 1st, easy day to remember, same time, same place. And, I do want to just acknowledge, and I mentioned this earlier, this construction renovation process, there will be times where we have lots of new information to share, and there will be times where we'll be a little bit less. This may be one of those times, but we do think for those who want to stay up to date, these opportunities are important. So thank you, everybody who joined. And as always, we look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a